All right, so this is a really simple video, and it's just about the order that your plugins are in, how they matter, okay? So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna, so I'm selected on FL keys. You can right click, you can go channel routing, and you can go route selected channels to this track. But again, I always like to show you guys the keyboard shortcuts, which is Control and L. If you had multiple, so let's go FL keys, and let's just give this a different color just so we can see it. So if we're highlighted on both of those, we're selected here, you can see that the keyboard shortcut could be Control and L, but what will happen is both of these instruments will go to one insert, but Shift, Control, and L is what we're wanting, okay? So what's gonna happen is FL keys will go to 9, FL keys number 2 will go to 10. And make sure I'm selected on the mixer. So Control, Shift, and L, boom. So there you go, right? This is just the keyboard shortcuts. It really helps you. So what I wanna talk about in this video is just the order that your plugins are in, how they matter, okay? So if we have a distortion plugin, and this is probably like the best way to see it, and I'm just gonna go Fruity Blood Overdrive. Again, we can select a different theme, select maybe that one. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, again, we are gonna open up Parametric EQ, and we will see what's happening, okay? So if we increase our distortion, let's turn it down a little bit. So look at this high end, okay? And I'll just turn it off and on right here. Okay, so we have a distortion on this keys. So FL keys is going to 9. Okay, on 9, now we have all our inserts. And this is what's called in series. So as our audio goes through each insert, your audio gets processed more and more and more. And so many times you're not going to notice a huge difference, okay? But sometimes you do. And I just want to share an example here with you. So right now, if we play this, you can see that the distortion is before the EQ, which means that we are seeing the frequency analyzer. We're seeing the high end be boosted with distortion. Okay, watch if I put it before, you're not seeing it, even though it sounds the same, right? Because we haven't done anything on the EQ, we're just using it as a visualizer. So both the low end and the high end have increased. Okay, so now let's talk about using a high cut filter, because when it comes to distortion, it increases the highs. So watch this. So let's cut out more. So let's open up another EQ, because we can use this as an analyzer. And what I'll do is I'm just going to push in my middle scroll wheel, and I'm just going to go before. You can F2 to give it a color, and we are going to go after. I'll go after EQ, okay? And we'll go before EQ on this one. Okay, so we have after EQ, we have before EQ, and then we are going to have our distortion plugin. Okay, so I just mixed around the plugins. So I got before EQ, we have after EQ, and then we have some distortion going on. Okay, so here is this sound, and let's just play some catchy chords. I'll just play something quickly. So I turned off all the effects right here, and we can also do that right there. And if I hit play, I just routed it to some reverb and some wideness just to make it sound a little bit better. So it sounds like this. Okay, so let's add the effects back on, and I'm just going to turn off that distortion. And so the before EQ, I'm cutting the highs on it. Sounds like some distortion's going on there, but okay, so what we're doing is we are cutting off the high frequencies, okay? So let's just go post, or sorry, pre, okay? So pre is before the EQ, post is after the EQ. So I want to see it before. So you can see that I have cut it, but this is what it would look like. You can see that this is it after. We have before EQ, after EQ. So if we put the distortion here, what's happening is the distortion is seeing this audio, okay? It's actually seeing it cut off just like this. This is what the distortion is seeing. This audio, it's being cut off. If we add on our distortion, you're going to see that frequencies come back. So it's quite aggressive, right? So let's pull it back. We can go maybe 100. Try to make it, kind of musical. So you can see right here that we have some fuller frequencies going on. And if I go really, really aggressive, I just want to show you that, look, we get our high end back. So we have our EQ, put our distortion. We were really, really aggressive on it. Again, trying to make it musical as much as I can. Pretty aggressive though, right? But again, so I just want to show you that the order that your plugins are in matters, okay? If we put the distortion before now, so what's happening is the distortion is seeing the full frequency spectrum, and then we're filtering it, and then we're seeing another EQ. So let's turn up the volume on that. Okay, so watch, if we go pre, you can see that this is what this EQ, so the before EQ, is seeing. If I turn it off, okay, this is what the piano looks like. We add in our distortion. The first EQ is cutting this off. That's why our second EQ is like this. Okay, so again, all I'm saying is when you are adding on your effects, such as, let's say we add in a chorus, or we add in, some type of compressor or limiter, whatever you're doing, the order that your plugins are in, it does matter. And that's all I wanted to share with you in this video is, as a beat maker, it's really important to know that. Okay. Now, sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes it really does. And especially when you're using like heavy things like, heavy distortion and stuff. But for me personally, I really do like to use sends. And for example, to create a send, I'll just show you quickly. Let's say we wanted to create a reverb. Okay. So what you would do is you would just left click, boom. So now FL Keys is still going to the master. And if you look on the master, that's the out. That's the 1 and 2. That's your left speaker and right speaker. Everything gets routed to the master. That's how we are hearing our audio. This is where it gets what's called summed. We are sending it to what's called a parallel track or a send. Let's say we open up some reverb. So I'll go to the Fruity Reverb 2, probably one of my favorite reverbs. And you can see that you have a dry and a wet. So if you put the reverb directly on, now let's just do that for example. If you do decide to put it directly on, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all just a choice thing. But you also have a dry, which is the original signal, and then you have a wet, so you can blend in. You might only just want a little bit of wetness there. Okay, let's turn off that reverb. And now we're back to this reverb right here, okay? So if it's being a send, you don't want the dry, you would just put it all the way to wet. And so what you can do is you can see that FL Keys is going to the reverb. Let's turn off all those effects, okay? So FL Keys, let's say it's just going just to this reverb. So without it, now with it, maybe we're cutting a little bit too much on the lows. Sometimes, again, it depends on how many instruments you have in your song. Sometimes the lows is nice. Just a little bit. So we have the FL Keys, it's going to the reverb. This is what's called a send. Okay, a parallel track, and we have disabled the dry, we put the wet up, and now we can turn down if it's too much. We can also turn down how much we want to send in, and there is a difference between this knob to this knob, okay? I encourage you to try it out, and in short, this is just sending less audio into the effect, which means that you're getting less of the effect, okay? If you're sending it in full, which means that you're getting the full effect, this is just turning it down after the effect, if that makes sense, okay? So this is turning it down before the plugin, which means you're getting less effect. This slider here is turning it down after the plugin. So in other words, you're getting the full effect, you're just dialing it back. Okay, so there you go. That's the order of your plugins. So for example, even if we had the reverb and you opened up an EQ, So many times you can also select your different styles up here, right? So for example, let's say we had our reverb and it was before. So we are cutting off the low frequencies before it hits the reverb, right? So in other words, we have FL keys. It's being sent into the reverb. It is seeing the FL keys. It's cutting off the high frequencies. Then it's hitting the reverb. If we want the reverb to hit the low frequencies, now the reverb sees the low frequencies, but then after it goes to that reverb, then we're cutting off the lows. And again, depending on what you're doing, you can get a different sound. And that's all I'm wanting to get across in this video.